I got my recording going.
Sweet. I'll do my backup. I think it's going. I think.
I think we're good. All right. Rock on. Gabby, would you like to do the introduction today?
Absolutely. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Eternal Void, but with Jazz podcast. Today, we are joined by Elhoim Leafar. Elhoim Leafar from Amazonas, Venezuela, is a brujo, an initiated multi-traditionalist witch, dowser, tarot reader, and writer. He is also the organizer of Our Sorcery Hour, a virtual annual gathering focused on BIPOC and LGBTQ witches that collects and donates a percentage from ticket sales every year for a good cause. Elhoim is the creator of Solitary Wicked Witch on Facebook and Solitary Witch Books on Instagram, both focused on recommending books that are not mainstream focused, reviewing books, and offering an open, limited, and stable support to new authors. He currently lives in New York, raising kitties and finding ways to shelter street cats. And speaking of his books, Elhoim also has a new one coming out on October 6th, 2026, under the Pagan Portal series, titled Maria Leonza, Folklore and Rituals of the Queen of Witches, Fairies, and Animals. His book introduces us to one of the central figures in the realm of Venezuelan spiritual magical traditions, written from the perspective of an initiate. But before we get too far ahead, welcome to the show, Elhoim. How are you today?
Hi, very glad to be here. Really, really glad.
Yay, thank you so much for joining us today. So before we go ahead, is there anything else that you'd like to share about yourself?
It's really cold here right now. That's all.
That's all. I'm right there with you.
Hard same.
Yeah, sweet. So thank you so much for coming on to the show. Yeah, we'd love to talk a little bit, about your book, about you, about some of your older work as well. I mentioned to Michelle earlier that I'd love to talk about, a little bit of the dream magic that you do, because that's a topic that I personally find, very interesting, very exciting. But yeah, let's start kind of like a little bit about you, a little bit about your background and how you came to your current path, for our listeners who maybe aren't familiar with your work yet.
Yeah, I born in a place called Black River, the Rio Negro, in Amazon, Venezuela. It's very close to Brazil. I was raised in there in the Amazon. When I was a bit older, we moved to the city. That's essentially my background. I come from different tribes. My grandpa is Turkish, my other grandpa is German, and both of my grandmas are indigenous people. I was raised very close to the Orinoco River. Uh, uh, so every time that I read in these books from anthropologists from Germany or Scotland talking about the people in Amazon do this and do that. Yeah, that's my people, that's my family, that's what we do. It's very nice living here right now in the USA because this gives me a certain level of perspective on things that I was taking for granted when I was in there. What can I tell you? I was raised by a very beautiful tribe. Most people in my family are indigenous. That gives me like a pretty good background that I really appreciate. Because we are like very open-minded people. We don't have so many limitations like in other cultures. We are like really openly queer, really open about paganism and religion. We grew up being raised practically by all the tourists coming to the Amazon to do ayahuasca, cacao, tobacco ceremonies, and these kind of things. So that's the reason why we learn also so many languages. Now living here in North America, this gives me like more knowledge and perspective on things I was taking for granted. Like, for example, when you are raised in the Caribbean, you don't understand the power of the seasons. You just watch TV movies or TV shows and you see these people talking about the summer or about the winter, and you don't know what is really snow. You just see this white thing coming over in the cities, and you are like, what is this? Then you are here and you understand how the world is actually, working, how the seasons, even if you are in the Caribbean, ends affecting you. They affect you financially, socially, culturally, and in many other ways. And when you are a spiritual practitioner, I think that's very important because teach you to see how green is your own backyard, but also that not always the garden next to you is greener than yours. Because you see that is more things to learn in the world, and that's like very beautiful because it's humble you in many ways. When I was in the Amazon, essentially what we do is healing people. For us, that's not something like witchcraft or something, it's just something that we do. When we moved to the city, I was 9. And that was interesting because suddenly I needed to learn another language. Suddenly, what was no more my language was Spanish. I needed to learn Spanish to fit with other guys, to go to primary school and then to high school and all of that. Then after that, I moved here, and now my official language is now English. Um, I just feel like while more I learn around, more I know that I need to learn even more. This humbles you in many ways. What I can tell you, you were mentioning Dream Magic. I did that book especially. That book took me 6 or 7 years. I don't remember. That book actually was rejected for like 5 publishers rejected that book because they find it too complicated. Was too tribal, was too indigenous, was too complicated to explain, was too big, was for other people was too small. But I really liked doing that book because it was a representation of what we do in the Amazons for us. We have this pretty cool point of view that is very different from the Western culture. In the Western culture, especially American people see the oceans and the sea like something that separate continents and separate people. And for us, when you grow up in the Amazon, the rivers, the sea, and the ocean for us is more like a bridge that join our continents. It's like that thing that keeps us together. It's not something that is separating us. That's the reason why for us working with rivers, working with water is so essential. And when I was working in this book, particularly during witchery, something that I needed to take into account was that how we see water magic like a form of also a spiritual connection with the other world, but also a form of dream magic for us. All of this is practically like it's the same tree that you are just trying to reach from different branches. Um, Honestly, I think that I did a pretty cool book. Every time that somebody asks me about it, about my books, I think that book is like something that I have very appreciated in my heart because sitting down to write down the translating from Spanish, Portuguese, and Guayu to English make me feel like I'm giving a voice to all the people that raised me. I think that this sounds kind of arrogant, but I am really proud of that book. I think that I really did a good job because every time that I reread my own book, I feel like this is the book that I would love to have when I was growing up. We didn't have that kind of books in that moment because growing up in Venezuela, this is the thing. When I was growing in the Amazon, most of the things that you do for magic and sorcery, you can't write down. You need to memorize everything, every ritual, every practice. I mean, I was reading years ago this book about ayahuasca, and the author was writing down the entire recipe, and he made it look so complicated. And I was just reading it, and I was just thinking, we literally do this by memory. We don't write down this kind of things because it's prohibited for us. And then moving to the capital where people speak Spanish and you have access to internet and books and bookstores and all this cool stuff gives you like access to more knowledge. But all the books that you read are translations from books written in English, written in Britain, United States, and they talk to you about things like the seasons, Wiccan stuff, which is really cool too, but it's not something that makes you feel identified. That has been part of my job being an author here. I always try to put in every book that I do, like, let me teach you money magic. That's something that everybody practice, but how we do it from where I come from and how I think that you are doing it and how I think that we can approach things in a better way if we learn from each other. If you do charm bags, okay, everybody does charm bags in different traditions, but this is how we do it in my practice. I just like to reflect about these kind of things, like not saying this is the way to do it or your way is wrong or my way is wrong. It's just, hey, we have different ways to do it. Which is something that I find certainly funny. I was discussing this yesterday, 2 days ago actually, with a friend of mine. I was saying to her, it's funny how you see all of these discourse about witchcraft on internet. People are so passionate about this. People discuss witchcraft like they were curing cancer, like they are competing for a Nobel. And it's not like that because it's a spirituality. You can't structure spirituality because this is not a medical surgery. Every person will have always a different perspective of view. If you belong to any coven or witchcraft tradition, you will notice that not all covens works in the same way. If you meet with 12 different Garderian witches from 12 different covens, you will understand that even when they belong to the same tradition, they all have different things in their practice. They are moving stuff around because that's spirituality. You just grow up and you start learning what works for you and what not. That's something that when people read books about witchcraft, they always forget this is what the author did and worked for him or for her or for they. This probably will not work for me. He's just teaching me how he did it. For example, when I wrote Dream Witchery, this is what I did, this is what I do, this is what I have been learning for the last 10 years in the United States. But also it's an opening to tell you these are the things that you can take and use and improve to make for yourself. When I was writing years ago before Taiwan, my book Manifestation Magic, that is on money magic, something that I leave very clear in the book is how we do money magic in my country, which is entirely different. And I remember I always put this example. Are two mistakes that people do with money magic. One is everybody's trying to do the same. Every time that you find a book on money magic, people is telling you use green candles because the $1 bill and the $20 bill and they are green, gray, and everything is green and everything needs to be green because in the United States, yeah, but I am in Venezuela. My bills are not green. I don't have any green bill actually. My most expensive bill in that moment in 2014 was pink. That was the most expensive bill. So when I see people doing like, oh, I'm gonna do a money spell with green candles, why they are green? Well, because the dollar, yeah, but we don't make dollars here. That's not our money, that's not our coin. That's not our bill. It's like nonsense. You need to attract what you have around. Now, if you are being paid in dollars, that's another conversation. That's one of the mistakes that I see on money magic. And the second one that I very often see is people always do money magic from a place of fear, from a place of need, from, oh, I don't have this, I don't have a job, so now I'm going to do the spells. That's what differentiates you from, I don't want to say a real witch, but I think that a witch is someone who is always prepared ahead for everything. You don't wait until you don't have a job to make the money spell. You are doing it while you have a job to keep that money, that energy going on. You don't wait until you are like, in the floor to ask for help. You are always trying to go ahead. If you just expect until the last moment to do the space, like kind of late, you lost the window. And that's something that for me on doing money magic was very important and something that I always teach to people. I'm always like organizing things to do in my home. Like, hey, I call to my friends and I say, hey, come to my house. We're gonna do like this meeting. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna do some money charms and stuff. And every time that somebody responds to me, probably someone new in the circle, I'm doing very well financially. Yeah, that's the reason why we're gonna do it. We're not gonna wait until we don't have any money to do it. We're gonna take advantage of this window right now. And we are constantly doing money spells, money jars, money charms, because we try to keep that energy flowing around. That's the thing that I do with the book. I just try to see what is the perspective on everything. How people do things in this way, I do it in this another way. I don't try to claim this is the way or your way is maybe better or is worse. I just try to be like more an open book. Okay, what are you doing that I think is working? What I'm doing that I think can be improved and how we can do it better for us, for the community, for the neighbors, for everybody around, for the coven, for the group. I think that's more powerful than just sitting down to discuss, this is my way, this is your way, and it's not a way in the middle. Because we are separating too much the community these days. Everybody's like, which target do you use? Which is your target? You are a witch, you are a money witch, you are a kitchen witch, you are a water witch, you are a psychic witch, you are a modern witch, you are a traditional witch. And we don't like to have labels, but at the same time, we label ourselves like, this is my box, please keep me here. And I can practice that because it's outside of my box. And then when I see my background where I learn so much stuff around, and just like, okay, this is complicated because I can't label myself. That's something funny that I do on Instagram. Every month for the past 3 years, I have been changing my tag. I pass from being the outsider witch to the uncommon witch, the immigrant witch, the wolf witch, then I change it again to the immigrant witch because everybody knows me like the immigrant witch. But I continue changing it because I just find that it's funny doing that because it's not a way to put a label on that because every time that you are practicing any kind of magic or sorcery, it's important to remember that it's not just you. If you really are working with your ancestors, with your gods, with your pantheon, that is more diverse. Maybe your ancestors practice a different religion. Maybe they were Catholic, but now they are helping you from the other side, and you are a pagan witch, but they are helping you anyway. They are not saying no to you. Maybe some of your ancestors were diviners or water witches or fire witches or brujas, and they continue helping you in some way. They are not saying no to you because you choose to have a different label. I just try to put these labels outside because I find it like in some way corrupt the energy because limit yourself, force you to think that you are inside of a box and just you is putting yourself in that box. I remember when I was working on that book, The Magical Art of Crafting Charm Bags, many years ago, that publisher was asking me to do a folk magic book. And I said at the moment, I can't do that because I don't have like too much knowledge on folk magic. I know what we do in my tribe, in my country, in my place, and in our stuff. But I don't think that I can be the voice of that people and say, oh, this is the only way how we do it, because it's not. That's the reason why Dream Witcher is so eclectic, because I try to put together so many different things from so many different practices in the book. It's in some way a dream book, but it's also a water magic book. It's also a spirituality book. It's a lot about initiations in there that has not been written in other books before. It's just that witchcraft is so diverse, and I just try to approach that from that point of view. I just try to don't appropriate other things, but I just try to say, hey, this is how I has been doing it for years. And if you want to add this to your practice, you're welcome. Just be respectful. Just try it. Maybe it will work for you, maybe not. But this will give you a different approach, different perspective, different views, different elements, different ingredients, different herbs and crystals to use. Just try to don't limit yourself, because we have this thing that I just practice water magic, so I just can't do this. I just practice fire magic, I just do this. I just practice folk magic, so I can do this because it looks kind of Wiccan. And when I see my entire background, it's like I can choose, because everything in my family in genealogy is like so diverse and so complex. My grandpa was Turkish, and one thing that he did when he was alive, was he read coffee cups, and he read carpets. In Turkish, Mediterranean, and Middle Eastern culture, we have this kind of carpet sculpture. We collect carpets in the house, and we put carpets in the walls, and they are handmade. And he predicted the future doing the threads in the carpet. That was something pretty cool that I have never seen somebody else doing. But that is not Turkish magic. It's just a general thing that they do in their practice. And that has been my whole approach all the time. One thing that I am is very loud on social media when I see people trying to put you like in a box. No, you can put yourself in a box. We have an entire society that is falling down because everybody wants to tag you in some way. You are black, you can be brown. You are brown, you can be white. You are a woman, you need to behave in this way. You are a man, you need to work in this way. You are a child, you need to dress in this way. And then you grow up and trying to go into witchcraft and you bring the same trauma and limited minds to the craft. And then you go around asking, I don't know why my spells are not working. They are not working so well and they can do totally better, but you are limiting yourself because from the place they are coming from, they are limited immediately because you are saying, I can do this. So your craft just try to figure out things in the path that you are creating because you are limiting yourself in that way. And that is what I has been doing for the past years, especially on social media. When I see people discussing and just sitting down, I always say to my husband that I am some kind of grandpa. This old man who's yelling to the airplanes? That's me all the time. I just see that these people like, cool, they are fighting for who is here, the water witch or the traditional witch or the modern witch. Cool, but I don't think that works in the end of the day because every time that we have those discussions, we just limit ourselves and we ignore the entire background that we have that is so rich. In the moment that you claim yourself to be a witch, you are admitting that you can be part of something that is bigger than what is writing in just the books. That's a quote that I always repeat to people is your craft is always better than what you're gonna find in the books. The spell is not just how it's writing in the book. The religion, the tradition is not just what is writing in the book. You need to start thinking outside of the box, and you're gonna see how powerful is your magic. Because I always try to walk what I preach. I always really try. I don't teach money magic if I don't see that money magic is working for me. When I see that everything was working for me, okay, I can write a book about this topic. I think that this is working for me. I can write and teach about this topic. But then you see people that is doing not so well in life, in certain aspects of life, and they are teaching things that are not related, things that they really don't own for themselves, and that's complicated in this kind of communities where everything is so spiritual because you see, and I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but you see, for example, a divorced woman who haven't had a relationship with anybody for the past 20, 30, or 40 years, and she's teaching love, magic. It's like, but how is your love life right now? And that kind of things why you need to pay attention because something is limiting their craft, something is not working in there, and probably something in their set of their minds. That is something that I really learned doing money magic was that what is the trigger in my mind that is not helping to the spell to work. Maybe when I'm doing a money spell, I'm thinking, oh, I'm doing this money spell because I need money right now, because I don't have money right now, because I don't have a job right now, because I am unemployed right now. And you are thinking that in the background, in the back of your head, while you are doing a money spell to attract money, but at the same time, you are claiming yourself, I don't have this. So you are saying, I don't have it while you are doing the spell. You are literally corrupting the energy in that moment. Sorry, I extend so much myself. Do you have any questions?
No,
I am like that all the time.
that was just fabulous. Like I didn't want to interrupt you because you were just saying so many like interesting, fascinating, powerful ideas about like how important it is to one have that connection to the land and to really like understand like where you are, like what spirits are around you, surrounding you like every day, and how that relationship is probably going to look very different from somebody who lives in like a completely different climate, a completely different world essentially. Like with a whole different cultural background, and all these different influences create like this living, breathing practice that is somehow connected but also unique and your own, and how that also connects with not boxing yourself in, as you said, and not like, yes, using labels to kind of explain but not to like restrict or to define, because you're right, when you do that you can completely cut yourself off from so much magic and just so much potential.
Yeah, for I have this example. when I moved to New York, one of the first places where I was living was in the Bronx. Then I moved to Queens. This is what happened. I was looking for places in Queens with my partner, and we find these pretty cool apartments. I always tell this story. I really like the apartment. I really like the view from the apartment. I really didn't like the area because I don't like Queens. It's not like my kind of vibe. But I really like the apartment. I like the space. I like the view of Manhattan from there. I was very close to a river, very close to some parks. And I take a little stone from the place. And I keep that stone with me in some place in this room. I remember I take the stone with me, we take it to the apartment, and I was thinking, oh, I am that kind of weird person who is always collecting stones that I find around. And I was like, oh, I like this stone, I take it with me.
Same.
This is the interesting thing. I do that, and I go, and when people visit me, like, what is it? Oh, that's a stone that when I was, I don't know, in Niagara Falls, I collected. I think it's nice. It's pretty cool, right? And people is like, yeah, you're weird. So I go to see this apartment with my partner, and we really like the apartment, but they say this apartment is closed. You can see the entire apartment. They are building these buildings right now, but we can see the other one. We walk in front of the street. We see the other apartment. We see the backyard. I like this stone. I take it with me, and we were applying for the other apartment. But when they called us, like 3 months later, they said to us, "Oh, that apartment that you were seeing is not, you can't apply right now. They say that the bill is gonna take like 6 months more and we need to move right now. But they say, oh, you remember the other apartment I showed you in the other building? Yeah, that's right now available. Somebody was applying for that apartment, it's available right now. And we were like, oh, that's the apartment from where I take the stone. So I take the stone with me. And it's this kind of silly things that you see happening many times. That's powerful magic. Something guides you to that place. That literally, that simple silly thing that happens. That I always say to my husband, do you remember this story about the stone? And he's like, yeah, that story about the stone again. That literally shift my entire perspective of magic. So when we start 4 years after that, looking for a house, because I was trying to apply for a house and we came to upstate, I really like these different houses that I see. And my house have this particularity that my backyard is giant, it's bigger than the entire house. When we came to see the place, I really like the backyard. And something that in some way triggers you when you are a practitioner from another country, aside of the conversations of races and this kind of stuff, are things behind that people don't see, is how many times you feel that like you don't gonna fit in some place or in some groups because they don't identify with you. But I really like the neighborhood, I really like the people, I really like the backyard, I really like the place, I really like the weather. After all, everybody told me, here is snowing like all the day of the year because we are pretty close to Canada. And it was like, cool, I really don't care too much about that. Something that I did based on that stone story is we came to the house, I see the backyard, I collect some stones, and I say to the spirit of the place, if you allow me to come here, I promise you will always have a space in this house. I don't know if you are indigenous spirit, native spirit, but whoever was here, you will always be welcome in this house. I'm not trying to appropriate your place. And then we wait 3 months, and everybody was applying for the house. And this uncomfortable time when you're calling to the bank, somebody's applying, you need to ask for more money, you need to apply for more money, and somebody's taking the house, somebody's rejecting the house. It's all of these very awkward conversations all the time. And then we receive the keys of the house. And when that happens, I always say to people, that backyard don't belongs to me, it belongs to the spirit of the place. This is a native land, and they respect that. And we craft a little shrine/temple in the back, where we light candles and we do bonfires and stuff for the spirit who was here before us. I just try in some way to recognize what's a spirit here before me, was a native land here before me, was a lot of indigenous people around here before me. And that's something that I learned from that little stone story. Like, energy will connect with you in so many ways that are not writing in books. And when you go to a place, if you recognize that is a spirit in there or a collective energy of different spirits in there that were in there many years before you, you can accept from a humble place that you are just a minimal part of this game, but you can continue being one powerful person in there. So it's that kind of things that change your craft. Everything in my craft is everything about perspective, what I learn from, where I come from, what people teach me, what things I'm learning, what I'm looking to learn now. Every time that I do a spell, if you invite me to do a ritual in your house because you practice, I don't know, red snake Wiccan, some kind of thing like that, and I go there, I will try to be respectful with your ritual, but at the same time, even if I am a very silent person in the corner, I am recognizing in the back of my head is some other energy here that you are not approaching or admitting in the place, but I know that is some other energy around from spirits that come before you that are allowing you to do this spell without you knowing it. And that's something really powerful in magic. When every time that you do a spell, you need to remember it's not just me alone. All my ancestors are with me at every step. All my gods and my pantheons are with me at every step. All the spirits that were here standing in this place before me, they are allowing me to do this spell. If I don't mention them or something, they can just block the spell, but or just not allowing to work the energy. But if you recognize that you are a little thing in this big map, everything I think that can be manifest in your way, that's something that I now, many years later, I recognize that I knew before, but I always took it for granted. When you practice Spiritismo in Latin America, something that we always do is that every time that you're gonna do a spell, you start mentioning the names of every spiritual practitioner who teach you and the teachers of your teachers. And it's a very long thing because you sit down in there and you just say names, names. And then you start the ritual because you're recognizing that you need all of these people with you to move the energy. And now living here, something that I continue having in my mind is every time that I do a spell, are so many spirits around that need to collectively work for this spell to manifest, to materialize my wish or what I'm looking for, that if I just acknowledge them, I think that things gonna do better because of that. And that kind of things are something that I really love in magic, that while more you practice and while more you learn, more you discover that I am still being a very small chip here in this giant bag, and I'm just learning a lot more. And people see you like, oh, you're a teacher, or you have written so many books and stuff. But yeah, everything that I know is just this little thing. And I see people who have written like 100 books. And anyway, everything that they know is just this other little thing, because the entire universe, the entire planet is like bigger than us. We are collectively working with so many spirits, with so many deities, with so many pantheons at the same time. And you read a book, you check this practice, and you say, okay, I want to practice this form of local regional folk magic. But it's not just what you are reading from the book, it's also you need to acknowledge how much energy, how much power was in that land, in that river, even in that building before you starting to practice, because you're still being just a small part of this game. I think one bigger part of the game that we have been witches or brujos or spiritual practitioners. For example, when you are a curandero or a healer, it's not you healing the people, it's all your ancestors working collectively through you to heal the people. You are just a tool, you are just a small instrument in the game. And when you're a witch, I think that continue being part of that. You are using your own energy to channel something bigger than you. And you are healing people, doing love spells, protection spells, all kind of practical magic that you put into practice day by day to help others or to help yourself, but you continue being just a small instrument that they are using to bring that energy to the entire world. And those are the kinds of things that and conversations that we would love that we have more than just talking about other authors and their books and their kind of stuff that sometimes it don't go so deep, because we have so many things in this community that we could be approaching about our ancestry, our genealogy, about the geography of the places where we are working, about political and social stuff that is happening also in our planet right now. And being a witch is part of all these conversations. How many times we just sit down to talk about how we do this love spell, but our conversations bigger and deeper than that we should be having especially I am part of the old generation, and something that I love about everybody who is literally younger than me is that I see how these, I don't want to be a grandpa and say these young kids, but I see these people younger than me, 5, 10, or 20 years younger than me, who comes with this courage to open the conversation about why we don't have black people in this comment, why we don't have trans folks in this practice, why nobody's talking about this, why we are not, everybody says that witchcraft is political, but why we don't have witches literally marching in the streets about these kind of topics? And I see the people of my generation just sitting down in the corner saying, oh, I did it before when I was younger, so I'm not doing it anymore. And I see this young lads doing it, and it's so cool because you see that they really wants to change, because everybody from my generation, time before, we just like destroy the entire system, just doing nothing. And when I see younger people doing it, it's like, I want to be part of that, because the young generation is super cool. They are like very brave. They don't have any fear to do things, and they don't have nobody stopping them for having these conversations. I remember when I was starting to practice Wicca in 2005 or 2004. 2004, I started practicing Wicca in that moment in a small coin in Venezuela. And I remember in that moment, I didn't notice because I was more stupid than now. But in that moment, I remember being part of the group. Everybody looks like me. Like we are like light skin in a very diverse country like Venezuela. And I didn't have those kind of conversation because I'm always the person who react after everybody else. Like, you notice this? No, I didn't notice. For over 2 years, I was being part of this coven until somebody that I invited to the coven told me, you notice that nobody here looks like me? And I was like, what? Yeah, nobody's black here. And I was like, no, what are you saying? And then you notice, oh, wow, it's true. And when I see that they didn't allow this person to be part of the coven, they just invited him for like 2 meetings and never again, I was like, oh, we have a racist conversation here that nobody's having, nobody's talking about that. This is awkward. I don't want to belong to this. I don't want to approach this. So goodbye. And now when I come to the United States and I see that 20 years after, we are still having this situation where nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody says witchcraft is political, but at the same time, everybody stays silent. Everybody put, oh, hashtag Black Lives Matter, but at the moment of the action, nobody does nothing. Everybody's, I respect trans people, but are trans people in your mailing list? Are trans people feeling comfortable with you? Are trans people in your student group? Are trans people part of your comment? No. So something is happening here because there are more trans people out there than you think. And I see that we don't have those kind of conversations in the community. And it's the same that when I tell you that we just label ourselves, we just put a label and we just limit ourselves, we also limit ourselves from learning, but also from teaching to other people that could be our allies for the next work that we're going to do, for the next spell that we're going to do, for the next tradition that we want to craft. Like, if you see, and I always put this very awkward example, when you see all of these people talking about traditional witchcraft, oh, traditional witchcraft is so cool because, you know, they go to the cemeteries, they do everything in the night, they do this cool magic, yeah, but they were all white, British, cis male. They didn't have too many rituals writing about women. When they mention a woman, they just say, oh, yeah, women were born in the state for witchcraft. Just that, like, just that? These people was killed. You see all of these white cis British men talking about witchcraft is so traditional. We need to keep alive the tradition. We need to keep alive the tradition. We don't change things. You don't change things because everything looks like you in these systems and benefits you, but nobody else is feeling comfortable here. And you're also limiting yourself from teaching to these practical people. And at the same time, you are limiting yourself from learning from these people. Like when I see white persons who practice voodoo, but they didn't learn from a voodoo priest, they didn't learn from a black person. That gives you a certain different understanding because you can read all the books on voodoo, but the spirits of voodoo, how you know that they're gonna work for you or with you in the practice if you have never been in the place, you never suffered racism? How do you think your altar can look really cool? You can buy all the stuff on Amazon. You can read all the books that are on Amazon. but it's a difference from there to the spirits actually having some kind of respect for you to, oh, you're doing this spell and I'm gonna help you. Maybe, maybe not. When I see like this white American guy talking about La Santa Muerte all the time, like, but you are not Mexican. And I don't have any problem with you not being Mexican if this was your practice in your home, but you go around teaching other people and not allowing Mexicans in your space where you're teaching about La Santa Muerte. How La Santa Muerte gonna actually approach you or help you or guide you or talk through you if you don't allow her own people to be part of the practice. For example, I in Venezuela, I come from I really love the fact that even in the financial struggles of my country, we continue being so diverse, so approachable on everything. We have so many cultures in my country. We have so much tourists because everybody wants to go for, oh, the beach in Venezuela is so cool. You have all of these islands, blah, blah, blah. And we have a giant population of Asian people. So I grew up watching local TV, things about Feng Shui and Japanese divination and the gods of fortune and this kind of stuff. For example, I have in my pantry in the house, I have this entire altar, altar shrine situation with Japanese gods. I don't teach anybody about that culture because it's not my culture. I don't write books about that culture because it's not my culture. I don't ask for money to teach about that, but I believe this works. I believe Feng Shui kind of works. I believe on the seven Japanese gods of fortune. I always believe in them. I think their stories are pretty cool because are about diversity, about immigrants. They are gods from different cultures, and everybody just assumes that they are Japanese. And I have this pretty cool altar in there for them. And it's something that is in my personal practice. It's something that I come, I do offerings to them. I'm grateful to them. I say thank you to them every morning because they are next to my coffee machine, so I need to see them every morning. But I don't appropriate that. I don't give classes about that. I'm not writing books about that. I just think that is something that is in my personal thing. I try to approach things from a place of respect, but also I respect my distance. That if somebody asks me, why you don't write an entire book about this topic, I think it's better if you ask somebody from that culture to talk about that, someone who actually lives that, someone who actually talks the language and has been there, has been working in those temples. I think that's pretty cool because you have somebody who actually have life experience in the topic. And that's the limiting thing with traditional witchcraft. Many topics on traditional witchcraft are written down from the perspective of white cis straight men from the old colony, and they write books for them. They don't write books for us. They don't write books for queer people. They don't write books for black people. They don't write books for brown people. It's just they just limit their target. And when you see these people like celebrating traditional culture and traditional witchcraft, it's like, yeah, you are not celebrating the problem, but you are allowing the problem to continue being part of the culture. And it's something that I think that is the kind of conversation that I really love to see on social media when I see people younger than me, smarter than me, doing these uh, deep dives on those topics. That's something that I love to see more.
Yeah, gosh, yeah, I completely agree with you. And you're bringing up so many important points that I think need to be discussed in our community because, yeah, the magical community is extremely diverse. But if you just sort of like look at, kind of like the main books or like kind of the main players, you'd assume, it's all white, all cis, mostly male. But it's like, no, like if you actually look a little bit
Yeah.
deeper, and it's so important to give people a voice and to like give them like the opportunity to share their culture instead of people who are not part of that culture being the ones to kind of lead the conversation. So yeah, thank you for bringing up those points.
Yeah, I mentioned this the other day, like 2 or 3 months ago. I mentioned a lot of people was mad with me. Somebody was celebrating. I think it's cool when you celebrate anything that happens to you, especially if you choose to do it out there, but it's also try to remember how other people is doing right now. Like for example, people, in general, people say I don't smile in pictures. I don't smile in pictures because all my family lives in Venezuela. I don't want to be the person who lacks empathy and they see me just like, oh, look at him, he's living his life, and we are here like struggling with money and with everything. I just try to put that approach on everything that I do. It's not just the view of other people, it's also how you can make other people feel. When I see somebody celebrating, oh, I have a #1 book on Amazon. Are you white? Yes. Are you a male? Yes. Are you American? Yes. So what's difficult? No. If you go to the Amazon list, every time that you see the top of 10 books in there, the bestseller books on Amazon, most of the time is 9 or 8 white male folks and one person who is Asian or black or a woman or brown. Very weird one is two of those things, like a black woman or a brown woman or a trans person. All the books written down are by these white cis males, which is interesting because when people see me, the speech all the time is he forgets he's white, and that's something that people has been throwing at me all the time. Yeah, but I'm also indigenous people. I look white because you forget that in history, our grandmas were abused by people from other countries, and that's the reason why I look how I look. I look like this because that kind of uncomfortable conversations. And even I never had a #1 bestseller book on Amazon. My books sell very well, but I'm not part of that cool group of witches that are all the time, oh, I have another one bestseller book. Yeah, I would love to see a trans person in the community having a #1. I would love to see another black or brown person having a #1 book. I would really love to see more women having #1 books. I would love to see more people in their 20s having #1 books, not just white cis male in their 30s and in their 40s and in their 50s having #1 books and celebrating it over and over like it's something new or something difficult for them. It is not.
Hey, Michelle, would you like to jump in and say anything? I know I've been talking a lot.
No, this is amazing. And yeah, just 100% agree with everything you just said. Honestly, like, I don't know if I have any questions. Like, I would love to hear, like, if we have like any, like, I hate to say closing thoughts, but we are coming up on the hour and we try to keep these at an hour. Maybe like, if I had any questions, I would love to hear a little bit about like your tribe's like natural take on like dream magic and kind of like what kind of place that's coming from. But yeah, that's kind of, other than that, this has just been thoroughly fascinating, and I've just been like sitting back here nodding and vibing to everything you've said.
So thank you. My grandma from my mother's side from the Waju tribe, these days they are called themselves Guajiros, and my grandmother from my dad's side was Arawak. Arawaks were like this very diverse tribal group of people who were navigators around the entire Caribbean before the settlers. So for them, water was not just this bridge that connects wars, as I mentioned before. For them was like this very rich thing that they could love to see as part of their craft, their religion. Water for them was something sacred. They didn't have like sacred places, but for them, the water itself was some kind of church where they go to pray, where they go to cry, where they go to put the bodies of the unalive. Um, when you grow up with this background, you appreciate this kind of thing, especially in countries like Venezuela, where we don't have clean water very often, but water continues being something sacred for us. It's not, for example, in Caracas, Venezuela, in the capital, they are still having this problem that sometimes, very often, every month, they cut the water in different districts of the city for 3-4 days, and you just used to living that way. I remember from 2013 to 2015, I remember we don't have clean water from Monday to Wednesday every week for 3 years, and we just used to that. The other 4 days you have water, you do everything, you clean, you wash, you cook, you prepare your food for the next week, and then you have 3 days without water. When you come from tribes, you see like that appreciation is something that you don't give for granted because you come from cooking in the rivers, drinking water from the rivers, washing yourself in the rivers. And every time that I have that approach that I think about that, I just remember the people who came before me have the same complication. They didn't have clean water. The water was something sacred, was their religion, was their church. And something that I see in there that was the approach in dream witchery was for they, the water was a bridge, not just between physical world, but also was a bridge between physical and the spiritual world. When you throw the ashes or the entire body of the unalive people, their bodies in the water, they start connecting immediately with the other world. In the Waju tribe, it was this tradition in the tribes before me. When a woman have a child, when they have a birth, it's a lot of fluids coming from their bodies. It's a lot of water, it's a lot of blood, it's other fluids. And when that happened, the priest of the tribe used to say it's because the baby is coming from the water world, because we all descend from the water world. So for them was some kind of connection in there. So when people just pass away, you give them back to the water. And every time that you have a dream, when you dream, sometimes in your dreams you can listen stuff. It's similar to when you are in the water. Everything looks like unclear, similar to when you are in the water. So they just relate all those things, and for them was not a concept about dreaming. For them was like every time that you go to sleep, you are going back to the water. So you connect with your ancestors, and that's the reason why you normally dream with your ancestors, with your grandpa, with people that you don't know, because you were connecting with the spiritual world. And when I was writing Dream Witchery, I needed to sit down and trying to translate these that were not just words, was try to translate the entire culture in words that don't look so complicated, because it's something very complicated to translate, because you're translating an entire physical experience. Like you think that you are dreaming, but you are actually not dreaming, because for us don't exist a concept of dreaming. Exists a concept of you go to sleep, you go to the water, you connect with people, ancestors, and people that you don't know, and you come back to the physical world when you wake up in the morning. It's not a concept for dreaming. And it's a lot of water rituals in the book because of that, because for us, something that we do, and I still doing, is that we collect water from different places. Every time that we go to some place, we collect water. Like this is water from Niagara Falls. This is water from the Bronx River from when I was living in the Bronx. So this water had with me like 9 years. We collect water from different places to mark the places where we were. And every time that you are trying to do a spell for something and trying to channel some energy, you take elements from there. For example, if I want to do a full effective protection spell, I try to remember when was the last time that I feel totally safe, like completely safe. The last time that I feel completely safe was during a different presidential period where I feel more comfortable. And in that moment, I was living in the Bronx. So I just tried to take some drops of that water and use it. Or for example, I know this is the podcast is just audio, not video, but I can show you this. If you see my windows, those plants hanging there. Yeah, the goldenrod, I collected, I have 3 branches of goldenrod in there for the 3 summers that I was living in this house. So every time that I'm going to do a spell, I just take a little part of there and I try to apply it on the magic. Oh, I collect this one in the summer of 2023, this one is the summer of 2024, and this one is from the summer of 2025. How I was feeling in that summer, which projects I did in that moment, how these projects result in real life. So I want to have the same result now. So let me take a little branch from there, some leaves and flowers from there, and burn it in the incense like an offering to the local spirit of the land, so they can bring me back that same feeling in the new project that I am approaching. And all of that in some way is connected with the dream magic, because this continue giving you a connection to the land. Because in some way, from the indigenous perspective, dream magic is not something, it's not about going inside of your mind, it's about going into the spiritual world, that is literally the world outside, not in the inner side. So you connect with everything. Every time that you connect with your dreams, you're connecting with the entire land around you.
Very cool. What's coming up next for you? What are you working on now?
So in May, probably in May, we have our Sorcery Hour. It's an event that we do every year. We try to do an event that is accessible for everybody. So we have like the lowest prices possible, but at the same time, we continue asking for prices. We don't make it for free, because it's important for us that everybody who comes to the event, every presenter, every teacher is paying for their time, not just symbolically, but also like they need to make money for their time. So we try to keep things balanced. We try to don't be greedy about the prices. We try to keep it like in $20, $25 every year for the entire event. That is normally 10 or 12 workshops for everybody. Then and a small percentage from every ticket goes every year to a different good cause. And in September, October, I have my new book on Maria Leonza, which is a Aborigine, native, indigenous, tribal goddess from my land. And are not many books about her out there, and the ones that are around are from non-Venezuelan people. And I wanted to put something in there like, we have this statue of Maria Leonza literally in a giant plaza in Venezuela, and it's something that we see every day. So I just wanted to put like, we have this perspective on this topic. Let me put it out there because this is a pretty cool spirit with which we work, and we really admire her and love her so much and worship her because she's an indigenous spirit, but also she likes in some way to work with people who are from outside, whatever they are, white, black, queer. She loves to work with everybody. So I tried to make a book that was easy to read and easy to put into practice for everybody, independently if you are American, Japanese, Korean. This book is something that you can take and read and acknowledge and put into practice and learn more from, and probably in some way will help you to connect with other spirits in your own land or in your own culture or in your own religion.
Oh, exciting. And I love the Pagan Portals books. That's so great.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
maybe.
no other publisher could have been made this book. When I was writing this book, I was just trying to manifest, thinking, I think this book should go with these people. And I was working that book in small chapters year after year. And when was the moment to approach a publisher, I just think, this is the people. I hope it's with them because if not, I'm not going to make it. And they say yes immediately.
Wow, this has just been amazing. Like I've just gotten like so relaxed and just like zenned out and all with everything you've been like telling us. This has been wonderful. So thank you.
Yes. So every episode, we like to highlight a couple of different charities or mutual aid groups that are either chosen by our guests or sometimes by us. But this week, I think we have a couple of different charities to talk about.
One charity that I really like is Direct Relief. We have been collecting money to donate to them through our sorcery hour. Every year we collect $200, $300, $400 through the event, just made from the tickets, which is really cool because people pay for the ticket to the event. You see all the workshops, you can see the recordings, and also a percentage of your ticket, I think it's $1 something or $2 something, goes collectively to the charity. So in some ways, we're just giving back without even trying so hard because every ticket is like $20 and it includes everything, including the charity, but also you are paying to your teachers. So I just try to keep it like very balanced. And it's a really cool charity because they donate 100% of everything, of all the money that they receive goes directly to the charity. It's not taken into bureaucracy, paperwork, and stuff. The other one, I forget the name right now, but this is charity that is focused on homeless people. I think that is a better
The Coalition
name
for the
for.
Homeless.
Yeah, that's they are trying to housing people. It's something that I has been learning a lot recently in the recent years about the crisis of homes around that has been happening in the United States because here we have in Venezuela we don't have winter, so even people who are homeless they don't have it so difficult like here because we are in the Caribbean. But here, I'm just thinking how people can shelter themselves during the winter, and because it's very freezing to death in the streets. So that's a charity I have been trying to highlight a little more in my socials. And the other one is Friends of Dorothy. Friends of Dorothy is this charity church, Catholic, gay operated organization here in upstate New York. They has been for like 30 or 40 years giving housing, medical services, and guidance to people living with AIDS, even from the 80s when this was a conversation that people didn't want to have. They just started this organization and they have nuns, but also they have activists and they have it's totally gay operated, but the nuns comes to help them and they make charities, they make food for everybody. They meet, I think it's one Wednesday a month or 2 Wednesdays a month, and they make like a big fest for everybody. And when people have this physical condition and they don't have access to Medicare or this kind of stuff, they try to help them. They try to connect them with other people. They give them housing care, all of that. It's surprising that in 2026 we continue not having this conversation, but also we need to continue collectively, like society, help to other people because the government is just not doing it. So we need to do it. These are the charities that has been like more in my highlight in my mind right now.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing those and for highlighting those causes because, they're all, incredibly worthy causes. And I hope everyone listening, if you have some money to spare, the links to those organizations and where you can donate will be in the show notes.
Absolutely. And thank you all so much for listening to another episode of The Eternal Void, but with Jazz. We really appreciate all of you and we appreciate our guest, Elhoim. And we look forward to joining with you all next week. Thank you so much. Bye.